So I thought about what shape can I use to reach my goal of killing stronger opponents under Ironman limitations. And I figured that Neut Tristan should be a pretty good option. It uses drones and Neuts that align very nicely with my character skills. And I also don't need to train any gunnery skills or anything like that. I think it's going to take multiple episodes. In this episode, I will show you the fit, and I will explain how it works in general. And I will show you the fight against one of very suitable opponents just to demonstrate how it actually works. Merlin is, of course, not a stronger frigate than Tristan. It's just a tech 1 against tech 1, but it's good for demonstration. Okay, so let's start with a fit. The fit is pretty basic for Neut Tristan. It uses 3 Neuts in high slots, afterburner scrum and capacitor booster in medium slots, and small ancillary rep, drone damage amplifier and damage control in below slots. And rigs are just full bulkhead rigs, so it's whole tank in Tristan. There are some discussions about whether to use egress rigs instead of bulkhead rigs, and whether to use armor tank, like an energized adaptive membrane, instead of drone damage amplifier in the low slot. The egress rigs will give you ability to pressure capacitor of your opponent constantly, which is more useful against larger opponents like destroyers with higher capacitor pool, because in this setup you are pretty cap unstable when you need to rep, even with capacitor booster. But I generally prefer this variation. It's entirely up to you. I just list the options here. And you will see the trade-off later on, not in this fight, but when we will start fighting against larger opponents, against opponents that have Nosferatus, you will see the problems with using bulkheads only instead of egress rigs. But on the other hand, this setup gives you more buffer, more sustainable tank, and a bit more damage. So you can be more aggressive in your target selection. How does this fit work? It works pretty simply. The idea is to nuke the capacitor of your opponent as quickly as possible. And your damage and your control is really poor. You don't have a web. You don't really have a lot of DPS just from the drones. And Tristan is just quite a slow frigate. So if you get controlled, you will lose pretty often, even against a Tech 1 frigates. But if you are in position, you can activate your Neuts pretty effectively. The mathematics works like this. One Neut drains 50 units of cap per cycle. So 3 Neuts Neut 150 units of cap per cycle. The average capacitor pool on a frigate is 450 units of cap, minus some internal usage for tanking and control. And it means that you will drain the cap to 0 of your opponent in about 3 cycles. One heated cycle is 5 seconds, so 3 cycles is 15 seconds. It leaves a pretty tight window of opportunity to react for your opponents, because if they don't react immediately, it means you will get 3 Newton cycles in the optimal, and they will have to fight without a cap, which is quite problematic unless we have like a Nosferatu or cap independent guns and so on. So that's the idea. There are, of course, more suitable and less suitable opponents. More suitable opponents are brawlers, but will naturally try to hug you, and ships that are cap dependent. That is laser ships and hybrid ships. The Merlin is basically the ideal target because it is a brawler, and it's a brawler that is cap dependent. It's a blaster brawler. So this fight is ideal for Neut and Tristan, and it actually takes a bit of skill from the Merlin pilot to navigate this fight effectively. I will show you the mistakes, and I will explain what's the correct course of action for a Merlin. So I'm currently inside the plex in position. I'm sitting at 0, which Neut and Tristan should do because your optimal on Neuts is only up to 5 kilometers if you use Tech 2, which is pretty short. They are vulnerable to scrum kiting, and Merlin warps into me. So the correct course of action for the Merlin, obviously he does not know my fit yet, but the fact that Tristan for some reason sits at 0 against one of the strongest Tech 1 brawlers in the game should immediately raise some red flags for a Merlin pilot. It's not really typical for Tristan. Even when Tristan has blasters, for example, afterburner scrum web to blasters, you are not gonna sit at 0 against Merlin because most of your DPS is still from drones, and drones are range independent. So you kind of want to scrum kite a Merlin even when you have blasters. So generally, the only reasonable assumption that you make when you see this situation as a Merlin pilot is that Tristan must be either a bad pilot or it's Neut and Tristan. And you shouldn't really rely on your opponents being bad. So the next step that you do is that you look at the opponent's ship. One advantage of ship out of position is that you have invulnerability for about 5 seconds on landing, while I do not have invul. So it means that Merlin pilot can actually look at my ship while he is invulnerable and check if I have guns on my model. And in the Neut and Tristan, of course, you do not have guns. And in this case, you can confirm that it's actually a Neut and Tristan. And everything, all of this happens before the fight even starts. So you can do all of this in these like 5 seconds that you have of invulnerability. So your next action, you understand that it's a Neut and Tristan, and even though you are a Blaster Merlin and it's a good position to engage at 0, actually you do not want to fight at 0 because you will just get neuted out very quickly. So you align out with a heated afterburner. And since your control is significantly better with a web, you will be able to burn outside of optimal of a Neutian range. And after that, you just load null and scrum kite. And it will be just a straightforward DPS race. Of course, you will lose as a Merlin pilot a lot of damage because you will have to fight outside of your optimal with long range ammo. But Tristan really does not have a lot of DPS either. So if this DPS race does not go your way, you can always leave because Merlin will have range control advantage. So this is how you fight. It's not the typical approach to this fight, and it requires actually quite a lot of understanding and skill. So the vast majority of your opponents will not actually do that. So when you fight against these cup-dependent brawlers, it's almost always a free win, even though in reality, if we play it correctly, it's not a free win. And you will see the mistakes that my opponent makes here. So first of all, you can see that he does not try to align out and pull range. It means he does not realize that I'm actually a Neut in Tristan. He just stays at 0 and he tries to brawl me down, but it's not gonna work. Merlin has only 15 seconds of cap, and it's just not enough to kill me before I Neut him out. So this is the first cycle, and here is the second chance that you have as a Merlin pilot to correct your mistake. When you see that only Scrum and Neuts landed on you at like this point right here, you will see on your overview, like you can see that I'm webbed. But Tristan only has Neut and Scrum. And it's an indication that this is a Neut in Tristan, the second indication, which is more obvious. And as soon as you see it, you need to align out somewhere. Just double click anywhere with a heated afterburner. This time it will be significantly more difficult to escape. Most likely you will still get neuted out by the time you actually burn away from the neuting range. But since you only need cap for a web and an afterburner, there is a chance that you will still be able to burn away. But at this stage, it's already quite difficult. And if you're wondering why I'm using Tech 1 Neuts, it's just because it's an Ironman challenge and I cannot use a market. So I have to use stuff that I either build or loot. And neutralizers are pretty rare to loot anywhere, so I just use Tech 1s. And Tech 1s are pretty bad because they have a very short range and they drain only 45 units instead of 50. But for the demonstration purposes, it's good enough. It's basically Tech 1 Neut in Tristan against Tech 2 Merlin. And you can see that he still doesn't realize the feat that I'm using. He's still at 0. And here the fight is over. It's like 10 seconds into the fight. I run 2 cycles on him, and regardless of what he's going to do next, he's dead. By the way, I forgot to aggress my drones on the Merlin, which is a mistake, but in this specific case, it doesn't matter at all. So you will see on the third cycle that this is pretty much the last cycle. He still has a little bit of cap because I'm using Tech 1 Neuts. With Tech 2 Neuts, he would have been neuted out already. But again, it doesn't really matter. The next cycle will drain him dry. Yeah, you can see. So now I see that he is dry. This number shows the amount of energy drained. And if it's lower than the maximum amount of energy, which is 45 units for Tech 1 Neut, it means that the opponent is neuted out. So what you do next, you turn off 2 of your Neuts, and then you just stagger one of the Neuts. You can see it right here. So what I'm doing right here is that since the cycle is 5 seconds, and in these 5 seconds his natural cap regen may get him enough to activate a web and an afterburner. None of these really require a ton of cap. Therefore, I kind of stagger 2 of my Neuts. So one activates when the hour is in the middle, which means that I neutralize his entire cup every 2.5 seconds, which means that he just never going to regen enough cup to establish control again. And you don't need heat here, you don't need to rep again because I'm kind of fully repped. And that's pretty much it. So you just chill. He is permanently neutered out. You will see in the log that he is like has 3 units of cup, 5 units of cup, then probably again 3 units of cup, yeah. So the stagger is not ideal. With ideal staggering you get like 4 and 4, but it doesn't matter here. He just does not get enough cup to do anything for the rest of the fight. And yeah, you can just go take a drink, do something else. The Merlin is completely neutralized. He can't shoot. He can probably squeeze enough cup to activate a web or like a 1 cycle of afterburner, but it's not going to be enough. The minor comments about heat. Generally, you want to heat your cup boosters because it will just give you faster reloads and faster cup injection. So even though I don't really have to do it, it's kind of muscle memory. You will see that I constantly reactivate heat on my cup booster. You're just not gonna burn it anyways, so it makes sense to just keep it heated. And of course, small and serial rep must be heated as well all the time. Heating anything else is not really required here because it will give you enough control anyways. Yep, and it's pretty much it. Yeah, you can see that he actually gets 1 cycle of web on me here, but it doesn't matter. It's not enough to reestablish control. So he is dead, and I will show you a feat. It's pretty basic Tech 2 Merlin. I think it was nothing special. Yeah, it's completely standard. It's completely standard Merlin with medium shoulder extender, like a very, very, very normal, basic, good fit. But he just made a couple of mistakes that I explained earlier. Alright, thank you for watching, and we will go to more challenging fights, more technical fights in the next videos. See you there. Bye bye.